Welcome to Just a Cup on Believe. I am Bryan Fetzer, an organic conversation with some of the world's greatest athletes and the individuals that help get to that place. Today, I have a very interesting and very enlightening episode. I can promise you, a little bit off the normal track, but I have with me two individuals that are really prominent in the name, image, and likeness space. And if you haven't heard of the NIL, not to be confused with the NLI, but it's the name, image, and likeness. Sam Green, athlete, go-to content creator, founder, and CEO, based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and Sabrina Oostburg. And she is a Division I athlete, CEO, and founder of the NIL Roadmap. Ladies, thank you for joining me. And man, we're going to educate some people today. I can promise you.
So excited to be here, Bryan.
Yeah. So, okay, Sam, you were kind of a pioneer in the name, image, and likeness space. How did you get started with it, and why did you get started with it?
Oh, it's been a journey. You name it, I've kind of done it within the sports and media industry. So even though NIL popped up 3 years ago, I've really had a decade of experience really behind the scenes that really helped me jump straight in and really roll up my sleeves. So I danced in college and in the NBA, so I know what these athletes are really going through. I became an editor at ESPN. Learned how to do everything I did there in an 8-hour shift from my phone so that I could start teaching professional athletes how to land brand deals and really monetize their platform. I really specialized in Olympic athletes, female athletes, to help them really like subsidize their income. So it was a natural kind of flip once, the rules changed with NIL. So immediately kind of made that jump. And now I'm honestly just an NIL nerd. I have my master's in media psychology, conducted the first ever NIL study, launched the first convention celebrating athletes as content creators, and was the coach for the Meta NIL Empowerment Program. That's how I met lovely Sabrina. Work on campaigns like Nike and travel from school to school, partnering with brands like JBL and Marriott, teaching athletes how to actually create advertisements and build something. Really, my goal at the end of the day is to build something that'll outlive their playing career, just like we'll talk about Sabrina here, like already building something while she has this platform as an athlete. I just have a passion for it because I wish I would have done it back when I was in the NBA or dancing in college. So
man, I wish you would have been around when I was coaching, 20 years ago to help, because what if a coach does not take advantage of that service, and I don't care what sport. Actually, the sports that probably would need it the most are the sports that aren't the most necessarily recognizable on television, but they have so many followers and so many people, and there's some incredibly creative people out there doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I like I said, I wish you would have been around, doing things when I was in my prime of my coaching.
Everyone needs a Sam.
No, and Sabrina, your situation is very unique because you're still a Division I athlete. I mean, but
right.
you had the wherewithal to start a company, which is really impressive. How did that come about?
Thank you. Starting my own company really came out of just my own journey with NIL. Sam was definitely a huge part of it. And I know that it all started when I was a junior in high school when I started doing track and field. And then 2 months after picking up shot put, I became top 6 in the state of Tennessee. And I was immediately recruited to Division I school. Part of how I was recruited was very unorthodox in the sense that it was because of my social media and how I performed at state, which does not happen for a lot of people. And so when NIL came about my freshman year of college, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I just so happened to have experience in NIL before NIL because I did Olympic weightlifting before college and I got sponsorships for that sport. And that was allowed because it was not an NCAA sport. And so now that I'm in college and NIL started, I was like, oh, this is what I've already been doing, just in a different sport. And so then I met Sam through the Meta program. She was an incredible coach for me. And it really just opened up my eyes to what was possible with social media. And then I started having conversations with other athletes, and I realized, man, lots of athletes just don't know what to do with NIL. And so that's why I really started my own company, to help other high school student athletes like me that were in my position, but just don't have the time to learn how to do their social media, how to build a brand. It's a lot of moving components that not everyone has time for. So just to give back time to athletes to just really enjoy their sport.
Sam, did you ever get any pushback, or did you find the difference between coaches when you first started and now?
It still varies. Some coaches don't even want their athletes distracted by it. And especially when NIL first passed, they were like, screw that. Their attention needs to be really on the field, or the court. So mainly like football and basketball coaches, like the moneymaker sports. And I'd say like the bigger the program, the more that may be the case, because they had enough money in funding to fund them to pay to play secretively.
Of course.
Versus like the teams that are trying to keep a roster and couldn't keep up with the transfer portal and needed that extra funding because it wasn't coming from basically their name and their logo or their division, are the ones that were way more open-minded to it. But now I feel like it's unavoidable, and coaches are starting to realize that. So even at like now, I'm starting to get calls from bigger teams and bigger programs, and it's just like getting higher and higher and higher up, because it's like unavoidable now, because these guys are allowed to get paid now. So now what is your differentiating factor? You got to really dive in deep on a way to keep these kids, because now the money is everywhere, and so they don't care really about the name or the logo. Like, they're, for the most part, some are going to either chase the dollar or the opportunity that you provide them, or keep them. So like a lot of like local activations I've been doing a lot more of with local businesses and stuff, to provide a lot of more local NIL deals to keep them from entering that transfer portal, because they know it's not there on the other end. So I'd say it's definitely evolved over the years, but it's truly unavoidable.
Oh, it is amazing. I mean, because I think back to when the young man, basically got kicked off the football team because he had a YouTube channel, and the kicker, and it's so ridiculous because it has nothing to do. And that's where the NCAA, I mean, they've got their major issues. They're very reactive as opposed to proactive and doing things the right way. I know you guys can't say that, but since I don't coach anymore, I could care less. But Sabrina, has it really helped you out as a student athlete? From a specific standpoint?
I would say yes. As someone who plays a sport like track and field, that's often overlooked, especially as a thrower who does not even get as much TV time as a sprinter. It definitely helps me in the sense that for track and field, even just to get a partial scholarship or a half scholarship is a lot for track and field.
Yeah.
And so be able to pay for my schooling through NIL and make that money is a huge deal for people like me.
How did you meet Sam? Like, it's very curious. And I think more and more student athletes need to learn, how do you find somebody that's a mentor in the space?
Yeah, so I'll share more about my journey to becoming part of the Meta program. Then I'd love to hear from Sam how she joined them as a coach. Yeah. For me, there's this event every year called the NIL Summit. And this event's this huge, credible thing. If you go to the summit, oh, you're part of NIL, you're serious with it. And so I went to this event, and it was the second year they've ever hosted it, so last year. And the Meta was one of their sponsors, and they announced that this is their third year doing this program, the Meta Empowerment Program. And out of 1,000 applicants, are like, we're only going to pick 30 female student athletes, specifically girls, from all different divisions and all different sports. And the goal of this program is really to just teach them in NIL, have them have very good coaches in these specific niches, just like Sam, to really just help you be the forefront of NIL. So compared to the other people not in this program, you could help teach your peers and help raise everyone up as a trailblazer. So that's really how I got my start in the program.
So Sam, how did you get picked to do this? They say, hey, like, we see you have a lot of followers. I mean, how did that go about?
No, I mean, I tell my athletes all the time, I'm really not even like viral on social media platforms. Like, I really don't care about growing my own following. I care about growing theirs. So really, I focus on just educating them every single day with my content. But again, I've just really, since the day NIL was passed, I've kind of already had my like sleeves rolled up within the industry because I already had a decade of experience within it. But similar to Sabrina's point, I mean, within the NIL industry, I've probably been to every NIL event there was. And so I've been going to the summit since the very first year until I decided to launch my own convention within the industry too. But so I had been there the first 2 years of it, and Meta honestly just came up and approached me. The team over there is so great. Becca, Sydney, and Nick. Just they've been in the industry the whole time too, truly resourcing athletes. All of them are former collegiate athletes too. So like the bridge between us all, and they just kind of saw what I was doing from afar and knew that I was kind of doing it on my own. And they had the opportunity to bring on 3 coaches for the 3rd rendition of the empowerment program. And so I was lucky to be one of them. And now that program, like, man, that program is, I can't speak highly enough of it. I've seen it literally change female athletes' lives. And that's why it was obviously just picked up by the NCAA. And now they expanded it from 30 female athletes to 100 female athletes twice a year. So
right.
Really, really incredible program, and really introduced me to a lot of standout athletes just like Sabrina, where they really did a good job of digging through those applicants. Like Sabrina's not kidding when there was over 1,000 and they picked 30, and it was like very competitive. So, yeah, I can go on.
So tell me, you said you started your own kind of convention.
I did.
How about that? I mean, that's a pretty amazing thing.
Dude, so I don't even know what happened there. I just saw the need within the industry again, because I've been to so many different conventions and spaces that like I just felt like they were all great, but I just felt like everyone was just like talking at the athlete, and they were walking away hearing from paid sponsors essentially to me at the end of the day, versus like educational resources. And what I do every single day within my own company is hands-on content creation workshops. And so I just was like, this needs to happen. Like, I didn't want to set out and run a convention on my own, but like, if no one's going to freaking solve this problem, then I guess it's going to be me. And so in 2 months with no employees, I freaking fundraise this entire thing, fly in 60 Division I athletes, bring in Meta, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and Snapchat, and the athletes learn about monetizing their brand and content creation. And then I had over 25 brands there where athletes actually on scene went and shot advertisements for these brands in person, and then they got to change and come back, and it was a Pink Turf Suits and Sneakers Awards night where the brands actually awarded the athletes with that really made their favorite NIL advertisement with a longer term NIL deal. So this was just year 1. I'm already in the works for year 2, and I actually today have to leave to go on a vineyard for a sneak peek of iteration of another whole version of AthleteCon. So
that's awesome.
Thank you. Popped up kind of in thin air, and now I feel like it's probably going to really be my baby that I really want to develop over the years, because I saw the impact that it could have.
I mean, you could just see the excitement, and just as you talk about what you're doing to empower athletes, you can feel it. I mean, it's obvious, which is a great thing, because if you're not excited about what you do, you're not gonna be very good at it. That's just, I mean, if it's a job and not, a lifestyle, it's not gonna work.
And I also like to add, I had the opportunity to go to Sam's AthleteCon, and when I chatted with the other athletes that went, this truly was a life-changing experience for them. Many of them had not even been to the NIL Summit before, which is a major event. And so to go to something like this really was something they're able to walk away with more knowledge than they had came in with.
Do you call it AthleteCon? Because if you don't, that's a great name.
Yeah.
No, that's what it's called.
That's awesome. I mean, my wife would die to go to the Comic-Con convention, so I can imagine getting athletes excited about going to the.
That's the goal, is to get to that level.
That's awesome. Did you have it in Charlotte?
I did, yeah, and it'll be June 6th and 7th. I haven't dropped it yet, but June 6th and 7th again this year.
You're getting it here, June 6th and 7th. I love it. Sabrina, now talk about content specifically, and I want to ask you both about content, because it's interesting to see how various people do what they do. But you did some stuff in Paris with Olympics, which was a really interesting. I always find when somebody does the behind the scenes look, because most people, one, the average American or the average person in the world, forget America, one has no idea about college athletics or pro athletics, except for what they see in games, in competitions. They don't get to see the backstory. So to get to see what goes on behind the scenes at the Olympics, I thought it was fascinating. I watched a ton of it, after we connected, and was like, man, this is pretty cool. How did that come about?
Yeah. So that was completely last minute, I will say, but I did try to take the most of that opportunity. 3 months before the Olympics, I found out about this international sport business program that said, hey, we're going to the Olympics. You get to volunteer with Team USA. And I'm a sports administration major. So I said, that's perfect. Work in sports, work at the Olympics. What could be a better experience than that? And so I signed up for this program. And then the goal was to fundraise for this program because really, as a volunteer, they don't pay for you to go out there. You're paying for your own to go out there yourself. So the idea was to make a content series that people could follow along and they could fundraise and donate to me through that series. So it's like in exchange for that.
Nice.
And so behind the scenes content's not my favorite personally. I actually don't enjoy making day in the lives just because I forget to film during the day and it's just really time consuming. But I knew that my audience would really like this series. And so it was one of those moments where I realized I could either be comfortable or uncomfortable. So I chose to be uncomfortable, and it really worked out because as I started my series where I called it Olympics with Sabrina, and every day I filmed what it was like working behind the scenes with the people at the Olympics. What specifically I did was I was at the High Performance Center. This is where the athletes train pre-competition. And so I got to just interact with these Olympians on the daily. And that's not something that lots of people could say that they have the opportunity to do. And the other volunteers that were there, they weren't filming any of this content. So I was really the only person that was providing this insights in the manner that I was doing it. And so I just saw that this is a great opportunity. And even my college, Belmont University, reached out a couple days before I left for the trip. They're like, hey, we heard you're going to the Olympics through your LinkedIn. We'll love to do a collaboration on one of your posts. So I said, oh, okay, yeah, of course. And so on one of my day in the lives, I actually did a collaboration with my university's main page. And then after I returned from my trip, they wrote a whole article about my journey to the Olympics. And so I think it was just something really cool to have a casual flex when I came back to school, be like, oh, what'd you do over the summer? I worked at the Olympics, and it really raises some eyebrows.
Right. She's a badass at the end of the day. Like, it's athletes like Sabrina that are just hungry and find a way. Like, an idea will pop up in Sabrina's head, and she's like, I'll do it.
Now, do you find, I'm gonna ask, first part to Sabrina, finding content, is that hard? And Sam, is there content that shouldn't be out there? So I'll go Sabrina first, and then you say.
I think finding content in the sense is, what do you want to make that lines with your values? Once you know that, it's really easy to find the content. For me, I know my values and my content buckets. Mine are fitness, relatability, and lifestyle. So when I know that, it's easy to make content around that. That's how I would answer it.
And is there bad content, Sam? Have you seen clients that that put something out and you go, oh, I think take it down?
I'd say mainly when it's like forced. Like, I don't want to say like any type of content's bad content, because to me, like, honestly, any content's good content because at least you're posting content. But to Sabrina's point, like, if it doesn't align with who you are, then to me that is bad content. Like, why are you doing stuff that's like forced for attention, for cash, for a brand? Like, to me, that's when it's like cringy, and I make them take it down. Is it's like, dude, you clearly got paid to do this, versus it kind of aligning with who you are.
Yeah, I mean, because companies are paying you to do certain things. I mean, you see the unboxings and I don't know if Dave Portnoy from Barstool, I think he made unboxing things like a national pastime. People would send him crap, and he'd be unboxing. It became, a lot of companies got a little pop from that. But creating content, how do you make an advertisement for a brand that you're you're using smooth. So it doesn't look like, oh, hey, company X just made me, do this. How do you kind of make it so it doesn't look that way? Or is there a possibility of doing that?
I'll answer this, and this is from something Sam actually taught me from our time at Meta, is make a content series. And I think that's something that is very unutilized, because these paid advertisements are exactly what they are. And lots of athletes don't understand that when you're making content for brands, it's not that you're getting paid, it's that you're making an advertisement for them and you're marketing. So when you understand how to actually do that, now your next step is, how do you organically incorporate it into your content? And one of the good ways to do that is through a content series. For example, if you're working with a food company and you make food related videos, let's say a day in the life of what you eat, it's very easy to naturally incorporate that without making it feeling forced, versus those videos of that cheesy smile holding up a product where it looks very forced.
You are listening to Just a Cup on Believe. Hopefully you're liking the episode so far. Please subscribe, like, comment, share, get as many people. This is an amazing topic. I have Sabrina and Sam, and we are talking about name, image, and likeness, which literally is the craze across the country right now, especially with college football season getting off and the start of the school year starting. I mean, everybody, it's a buzz. I mean, I don't think I can go a day without reading an article on some form of name, image, and likeness. When I say name, image, and likeness, what does that take you? Where when you hear those terms, what does that mean?
Sabrina, go ahead. The athlete.
Yeah, to me, that's your personal brand. It's who you are and how you display that in an online presence.
Spot on.
That's we can define it much better than that. Pretty awesome.
Boom. we'll just stop it at there.
That's Webster, actually.
People start talking about the monies involved, and I would like to get a realistic understanding. I mean, how much money do individuals get with name, image, and likeness? I mean, what's, or is it just money? Is it some trade? How does, what's the payday for some people?
I want Sabrina to go into a little bit more detail, but from my perspective, like just working with hundreds of student athletes, like it takes the work, and like that's the separator. And that's why Sabrina is sitting here having this conversation as, somebody on the track team versus a quarterback. It's because she's the one grinding, building something that is going to truly outlive her playing career. So to me, like, yeah, sure, of course, if you're the quarterback, the money's going to just literally fall into your lap and you don't have to look up. But to me, like, that's not why NIL was passed. Like, that's been around behind the scenes, like, illegally for years. Like, the passing was, to exactly Sabrina's point, to allow athletes to actually monetize off of their brand and to build something off of their literal name, image, and likeness. So to me, like, the day-to-day, like, unless you're, the quarterback or, on the basketball team, the starting player, like, it's the separator is it's work. It's work ethic.
Without mentioning a name, what's the most money you've seen somebody get in a deal for?
Yeah, I don't really like to do that.
A range. Is it 6 figures?
Yeah,
like 6 figures.
I'd say like. I mean, I've heard of athletes for it to be like literally in the millions, but I've seen like, physically, I've personally seen a check come through at like 30 grand.
That's a lot of money. I mean, that's a lot of money. I mean, that's way more. My first coaching job wasn't close to that. My second coaching job wasn't even close to that. It was a full-time person. So, I mean, that speaks volumes. That's awesome. I mean, but that's reality. I asked that question because so many people start throwing out these ludicrous amounts of money that,
but really the average NIL deal is probably $100, literally. Right. So like, that's why I say it depends. Like, it's the work ethic and it's the brand and it's the business mindset. So I don't know. I don't want to, don't put Sabrina on the spot and make her talk approach.
No,
I've never,
I have a good way to respond to this. And to answer your question, Brian, I worked with a agency prior that they had athletes that they constantly got them six-figure deals. So it's not out of the blue, but I will say that's not normal, and it's definitely normalized that everyone's going to get these six-figure deals.
and
So
I think
go
that's
ahead.
important. No, I was going to say, I think that's important for parents to understand. Kids coming out of high school, from high school into college, that the misconception is, well, man, my son or my daughter is going to get completely taken care of because of this new name, image, and likeness. And the reality of it is, what both of you have said is you actually have to work at it. It's just not going to get handed to you. And you just can't say, well, I signed at school X and hey, all the payday came in and I don't have to do anything. You actually have to do stuff. And I've talked to friends at a bunch of colleges, a bunch of different sports, that they had name, image, and likeness deals, and they didn't think they had to do anything for it. And they didn't get paid because they never posted. They never showed up to an event. They never did what they're supposed to do. And they couldn't understand, well, coach, like, where's the money? Well, they told you to show up for 3 signings and you never showed up. So
Which is very minimal.
Right.
Right.
Sabrina, is that like, you're at Belmont. Belmont's a Nashville.
Yeah.
No, I mean, amazing city. I love it. One of my favorite cities in the United States. But I mean, trade outs, those kind of things are similar with name, image, and likeness.
I think there's tiers to how much you get paid from NIL.
Okay.
And I'll go into those tiers. One of the tiers is, your sport. If you're a football, basketball player, as Sam was mentioning, you are going to get paid more just because of that sport and what school and what position you play. If you're a quarterback versus a tight end, you're going to get paid differently. So there's that tier. The second one is whether or not your school has a collective. That adds on to it because collectives, they're the ones feeding your school, or at least the athletes, the money to get those deals. My school personally doesn't even have a collective.
Right.
So I can't say I'm getting money through collectives because that's not a thing for us.
Right.
The next thing is for your knowledge of NIL. If you do know how to do NIL versus not, I think that definitely affects how much you make. Because if you're brand new to NIL, you may think that an affiliate program is really good for you, which it's not, by the way. Because the struggle with NIL is that lots of these companies think that they don't even know what NIL is. It's this whole big thing that everyone's trying to make this sparkling word out of, but it's nothing new. So I've had companies that I personally reached out to. I'm like, hey, love to work with you. They're like, great, here's a code. I don't want your code. That's a bunch of free work for me in exchange for a lot for you. So that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And so if you're brand new to NIL and you think that's what an NIL deal is, you're not going to make a lot of money from that. The next tier from that is your social media following. If you already grew your social media following in high school, you're coming to college with, let's say, 50K versus 3,000 followers. That does change some things because now you have experience in social media. You know how to create content. That's a big deal. And the last tier I'll mention is your interest in it. I have so many teammates that I've talked to. I'm like, hey, like, have you heard of NIL? I'm the social media person on my team that everyone talks about. I'm like, y'all, you should do social media, like NIL. And they're like, oh, I don't have time for it. That's something I often hear from athletes. Yeah, I often hear that from athletes. So if they're not even interested in it, you're not going to make a lot of money too. So depending on which tier you're in, that definitely changes how it is because it's not like a simplified, fixed format for everyone.
Does it matter what that was phenomenal, by the way.
Thank you.
Right there, that little like segment, should go viral on your stuff when you put it out there, because I mean that answers every question a parent, a coach, and an athlete should want to know about name, image, and likeness. The question I was going to ask is, you have different social media: LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. There's probably other ones out there. I used to call it InstaFace and all that kind of stuff back in the me being a dumb coach days. Is there any that specifically is the best, or does it really matter, or does it more preference?
I'll give that to Sam.
Okay. So every audience is different and every platform is different. So Instagram is going to be your new digital resume. Like this is going to be like you're all encompassing, like being able to show brands like this is what I do, this is who I am. A lot of my athletes I'll build out Instagram strategy for, and I'll tell them everything they need to do. And then I discovered that they have a TikTok and they've already been doing all of that on TikTok. So TikTok is where these athletes are feeling comfortable. It's really where all their teammates are. It's almost like locker room culture. I had an athlete tell me that that's where her younger audience is. So she does a lot of like game day makeup tutorials because all the young softball players like look up to her on TikTok.
Interesting.
X is where really all the sports fans are. So I really encourage athletes to tap into like their hyper local audience. Like they know, like the people that know your name for what you're doing on your, like your name on the roster spot. They're the ones that constantly looking up like your analytics, like the play-by-plays, the game days. I had that same athlete that said her audience was younger on TikTok say that on X, it's an older audience where she joins a lot of local, back then it was Twitter Spaces, now it's, I don't know, X Spaces, with like local podcasts like yourself that are kind of going live even during like football game days. And she'll kind of join the football game day podcast. And she said she'll sometimes walk away with like literal NIL deals from X because it's like the audience that's on there is a little bit more of like the money side.
Right.
LinkedIn, Sabrina does a great job with, and I try to beat it into athletes' heads that like not a lot of athletes are even paying attention to LinkedIn. But if you're looking for a brand deal, well, you know, what platform is basically the head of influencer marketing at every single brand sitting on? LinkedIn. So if you want to work with Crocs, I guarantee you the head of influencer marketing at Crocs is on LinkedIn. So I always tell athletes like, post about your experience while working with brands. For Sabrina, she was posting about her upcoming opportunity going to the Olympics and that, it, you know, she was doing a content series and, you know, message me or comment if you would like to sponsor the content series. And she was even like showing like how much she was fundraising and did a little chart along the way. Like it's like interacting with that business audience, like as a student athlete, which is like gold because to me, like not enough are doing it. So you're really like building out this network. And when you're looking for a job at the end of the day, like you're going to be the one that gets your dream job or, you know, has enough support like Sabrina to start her own business because she's the one that's like meeting the business connections. Snapchat came to my convention and verified every single student athlete. So Snapchat's very like innovative and trying to keep up with the times now. And they're like really trying to keep up with short form content. So they've become actually a bigger news platform, but similar to TikTok, athletes feel a lot more comfortable posting on Snapchat because not a lot of the business audience fully is kind of like on Snapchat brands are and stuff, but it's a little bit of a mix, I'd say, between like a TikTok and an X. And then YouTube Shorts, I mean, at the end of the day, like it's an algorithm. So like, why would you not want to be tapped into an algorithm? If Sabrina was to repurpose what she just shared about the 4 tiers of NIL, right? Like that's something that you can like search. So any content that you're making that is like actually of value to an audience is probably going to perform best on YouTube Shorts. And I don't know if I'm forgetting any other platforms. There's way too many. They need
I think you hit the head right there.
I mean, I remember you guys wouldn't have been around when MySpace was out there.
I love MySpace.
I just remember our athletes having it. You know, I mean,
I can't say I'm familiar with it, but I'm just gonna nod.
I think it got shut down. Like, who knows? I mean, it was
God, because it actually kept me up for years when it was still open, but like I didn't know like my login. Then I'm like, what is on there that I don't even know. It was on my top 8. They might like, what's my song? I don't know. What's my background? Like, what's my profile picture? Like that would give me nightmares if I had access to my MySpace.
That is funny. I mean, I never had it, but I remember seeing about it and those kind of things. But you know, I'm not the social media guru by any stretch. Man, I appreciate so much both of you coming on. If you could give a quick plug to how somebody could get in touch with you, you know, about, you know, or learn more about your company, I think that'd be a phenomenal thing. Obviously, it'll be on a video form and an audio form. So, you know, like Sam, I'll let you go first, and then we'll close out with Sabrina.
My handle's right here. Just follow me on Instagram, Sam B. Green, and DM me. I'm pretty good about responding to my DMs, and then I can send you any info that you need from there.
That's awesome. Sabrina?
Yeah, follow me on Instagram, Sabrina10_fit, or reach out to me on LinkedIn, Sabrina Oostburg. Let's chat.
We are definitely going to, include you on the LinkedIn part, because I think that's a huge piece of it. Thank you so much for both of you being on at Just a Cup. Love having you. Hopefully enjoy the episode. Like, subscribe, and share. And we'll be back with a new episode shortly.
Thanks for having me.